Hello there, so let me take you back in time to the 1890s. During that time, a game was released called Warhammer Dark Omen. This was a sequel to a previous game called Shadow of the Horned Rat. The Dark Omen game was a firm favourite of mine, and I remember completing the campaign at least twice, and it probably was more than that. Now I'm sure some of you may also remember that fine strategy game, so you may be wondering why I bring this up. With the OS Factions mod and the excellent work from the Dark Omen and the Shadows of the Man Horned Rat mod by Werebear from Russia and Chris Ord, you can now play them in a campaign. You only also play the campaign normally with just a Dark Omen mod, and you recruit the units like any Regiment of Renown. During this video, however, I will concentrate on the units, so this will give you a good idea of what to expect, and then I'll do a separate video about the campaign. In that video, I'll show you both sides, the OS Factions, and using the standard mod for the Regiments of Renown. As always, all the stats shown are on ultra settings, so join me as I go down memory lane and welcome the Grudgebringers. Leading the Grudgebringers is Captain Bernhardt, with his units of heavy cavalry. Named after his sword, the Grudgebringer, Captain Bernhardt and Quors Zimmerman perform a formidable unit on the battlefield. So first thing I need to say about this, it is clearly not a one-man yard, so remember there's always a chance if you get this unit into combat, Bernhardt can die, which is very bad. So use the unit sparing, and have it around the back as backup to help a particular fight. The stats themselves are not great, but we do hit hard on the charge, and are very quick with decent armour, so that is a bonus. And they do of course have a great deal of health. These stats can always be updated within the campaign character screen. Abilities wise, they have a standard heroic killing blow, deadly onslaught and stand your ground, which does provide them with an interesting damage boost to the 60 strong unit. Make them pretty good in one-off charges, but make sure you always have an eye on them. The only new hero is Vladimir Stormbringer, an ice mage. You can take a couple of other wizards and the other standard Emperor heroes in your army. Vladimir was personal advisor to Tsarina Catherine of Kiev, and joins up this time with Captain Bernhardt on the campaign. This is a very powerful wizard for your army, and using him makes the battles a lot tougher. With a huge amount of spells to talk about, and seeing that his other stats are pretty much all terrible, let's go straight to them, starting with the abilities. Unnatural Cold is when Vladimir casts a spell, the very air turns cold and debuffs heavily on speed, defense and attack. Lasting a full 30 seconds, this is an amazing spell, and means you should always have a nice cheap spell on Vladimir, so you can always have this debuff on. Alongside this, he also drops magic resistance by 30% using Winter's Rage, so in 2 mages would benefit from this, if timed correctly, but I like to have him on his own, as he is so powerful you don't need another mage. Howling Winter is the Zeast ability, a powerful vortex, but note the distance, it's only 30 meters away from the caster, meaning very careful placement is needed. With another swirl on the cast, and 3 uses, means you get a lot of good damage when casting this, and maybe worth pushing Vladimir up the battlefield to get the cast off before the enemy comes close to you. Onto the spells now. First up, Shield of Cold, a powerful defensive spell which lasts 40 seconds and is really cheap to cast at 6 winds of magic. With a huge range as well at 400 meters, means it's a very useful spell even at extreme distance. Similar is Frostblade, boosted damage and attack, also at that huge range, meaning you can help a unit survive that extra 20 seconds or longer. This one is particularly useful on cavalry on the charge. Crisping Cold is a great speed boost which can be used with the Frostblade spell to really hit hard. Don't forget, it also improves reload skill, meaning it does not always need to go on cavalry units. I personally think this will be a waste on infantry, as the initial charge bonus is usually pretty low. Shattering Frost is an expensive spell, but really does stop the enemy charge in its tracks, especially as it's a handy 250 meter cast distance. During the first phase is a really good time to get some extra damage due to the armor debuff, and at a full 30 seconds you can really move troops around to protect a flank. Chill is a very powerful spell, holding a unit in place for a full 20 seconds. Allowing you to shoot a couple of times into it while your mage infantry moves up to provide a charging attack, as the defense and attack of that particular unit is now nerfed from this spell. Blinding Blizzard is very useful against missile units, especially against artillery, if you can get close enough. Cutting down their vision means your only ranged units can get a few more shots before the units can get closer to get their own shots off. With an increase in accuracy and reload skill, does neuter the offence very successfully. A more offensive spell now, Storm Strike, your classic breath attack, and does the usual amount of damage, like the other spells from the other Lords of Magic. Expensive at 10 though, a bit cheaper wind spell now, again similar damage to the other ruined abilities, but only small area it hits. Ice Charge is the classic magic missile with a nice long range. This version is more against a unit as it's got good explosion damage. Biting Wind is a vortex spell, powerful as it is expensive, and can be used against flies, which is handy, so make sure some careful placement of the spell to get the most out of it. Ice Blizzard is a direct damage spell, which is great for taking on a unit that is causing you issues, or just helping a unit out which is struggling against a more powerful opponent. The Archeon is hugiest is Hailstorm, a bombardment spell with a large strike area, and has huge explosions. Against any unit with lots of models, this is a spell to use. It's especially useful when the AI blobs up in large battles, and it can be truly devastating. Led by Bernhardt's friend, Asgur's Bloodfist, is a strong unit of Dwarf Warriors at 450 points. As you can see from the card, they bring fire to the battle, high immediate defense, and of course armoured and shielded. There is charged defense against the charge, and 6 extra damage against infantry. The Yak AP at only 6, but they are very sturdy and hard to grind down, i.e. the classic dwarfs, and especially tough against low tier rank troops. Perfect in the first line of defense, and in every battle this was a good starting point for your army to build around. While we talk about dwarfs, Dalgrim has a force at the same cost to go alongside Asgur's. So you can have 2 of these units in the centre of your front line with identical stats. Coming from your end, these Grey Guards are led by Elrod, are a nice anti-yard unit. They not provide the defence, and their armour is not great, so more of a counter-punch unit. The damage is good though, 20 AP and 15 anti-charge, meaning they are a pretty good damage dealing unit to monster and cav. They should never get charged or be the first line of defence, as the armour defence is just not built for that type of thing. This is a good third rank in your force unit, so you can move them to counter any charges, but at 600 points it's a reasonably cheap option. Vowed to take revenge on the Skaven and are led by Raymond Brack, this unit was formed when a Skaven raiding party burned down a village during the attack on Wissenheim. Now this unit has decided to hunt Skaven down. More focus on damage, as this unit at 725 points has no defense or armor to speak of, but does possess a high ability to cause damage. With higher than standard melee attack, decent base weapon strength, which is boosted by frenzy, and 8 AP. Defense can be boosted if they are using a fight, which on the whole they will be against decent foes. The strength of opponents adds some good toughness to the unit, so they can last a bit longer, and they are unbreakable, meaning a 140 strong unit can cause a lot of damage before they die. A small unit of 80 models are led by Sven Carlson, a former mercenary from the Border Princes and another friend of Bernhardt. At 725 points, this unit is heavily armoured, but is lacking defence, and strangely most of the stats are not great on the whole. It does have an anti-air infantry bonus of 8, so this unit really specialises in clearing the cheap first tier infantry of the opposition. If you're looking for a bit more damage in the front line, you could surround this unit with 2 strong high defence units, perhaps like the previous mentioned Dwarf Warriors. Then you got a very high armoured front line, and this unit can do a bit more damage than the Dwarves can. Led by Gunter Shep, second in command to Bernhardt, this unit is much better and deserves its 800 cost. 110 armour and a shield, fire attacks with a good high melee attack as well. Melee defense is reasonable, and where the damage is nothing to shout about, at only 7 AP, those fire attacks make up for this. There's another terrific frontline force. Alongside the dwarves mentioned before, provide one hell of a headache for a frontline force to grind down. Our rare unit, Iona Elf, who's not a hero, but has hero-like stats. Coming from the Black Mountain, he's 950 points and is expensive, but is a very powerful combatant. Where he acts at any special abilities, his base stats are more than enough to take most heroes out. 235 AP damage and 15 anti-infantry bonus. Means against any hero, or even some Yords, he's a surprisingly good, strong combatant. A great defender for Vladimir, if that character gets targeted, but can definitely do work as a nice counter-attack too, and he's also an encouraging buff for your front line. Our first known regiment of renown, the Ogres, at 970 points, which I personally can't wait to see this faction in Warhammer 3. So Ogres are similar to Trolls in this mod, as they charge and hit like a truck on the charge, but have of course low leadership and weak armour. They are reasonably quick, so can get around a flank and charge into the back with their huge mass, spreading their fear mechanic. And with 70 AP damage they can cause a lot of destruction, but keeping their leadership high is key, as if they get countercharged from another unit, they can run before you even realise it. If they do drop low in health, they do get the ability Death Blow, increasing their damage potential considerably for a few seconds. Of course, they would soon rout again, but a handy mechanic. The last of the melee units is the Countess Isabel's Guard. The cousin of Karl Franz, these men are a personal bodyguard, and have a lot of armour and decent stats across the board. With 23 AP and 9 anti-charge, they can do some real damage to monsters, but against Cav their numbers would be equal. So be careful, because their health pool will be considerably different, and they could easily use that fight. So stick this unit against yard foes who are not as numerous, such as monsters like Trolls, and they can provide a useful damage output. Onto the missile units now, and starting at 475 points, Skyard's Elf Archers, which are a bargain. Vanguard, Shoot on the Move and Stalk. They are a brilliant unit for the cost, sadly only had one of them. With long range and nice damage, they can provide some excellent flanking fire to your army, to watch out for that cav. As an added bonus, if they're in the woods, they gain the ability Guardians of the Wildwood, giving them some extra damage versus charge and charge defense. Highly useful, but if you do get into combat with cavalry, they are going to use, so be prepared to move them. The Halfling Rangers, and now at some point I'll look at their campaign as well, but here is a sneak preview of one of the units, and they can be recruited by this particular faction as well. With Vanguard and Stork, at 500 points, the Halflings are naturally good at skirmishing, and they're reasonably quick. They cannot shoot on the move, but we do provide some decent damage, and a decent range of 160. While they are poor attacking in combat, they are surprisingly good in defense, due to their ability Trixie to Halflings, adding a bit more damage but a boost to melee defense, taking them to nearly 50 defense. While they lack armour against chaff units, they can do surprisingly well. Led by Frank Eriksson, the Helmgard Bowmen at 500 cost are an Ulfruz Bowman unit. They're 120 strong and is your standard bowman, but with better accuracy and working on well with the Kiel's Youngbows, who are at the same price but are only 90 models. These units are what I expect from missile units, just don't get them into combat. Led by Liam Fletcher, the famous Grudgebringer crossbowman, are heavily armoured for a missile unit and provide very good value at 600 points. The missile damage is excellent at 18 AP, so they're going to do damage to whatever they hit. And if they do get into combat, they won't suffer the damage as much as the other units because they have 110 armour. They also have Stork, adding a bit more usefulness, and if they do not have Vanguard, they can get into the flanks easier. and could be run with some previous mentioned skirmish units if you plan ahead. Now onto the cavalry. I'm going to start off with some Norse guns, under the command of Eric Ragnar, a friend of Bernhardt. Riky had a lot of friends. They are famous for taking on trolls, and at only 750 points, this unit is an amazing one to put on the field. Very high stats across the board, with 14 AP damage as well. They're only 45 models, which is a bit of a downside, but the combat stats make up for that. Best used against infantry to charge in and provoke fear, and keep moving down the line. But they could definitely hold their own against most units, unless there's a lot of anti-arge to worry about, or if they're heavily outnumbered. If you're not playing the Yoss Factions mod, this is the unit which you would get instead of having a legendary Ord in Captain Bernhardt. A very high armour, heavy hitting cavalry unit, again providing that fire damage and strong stats all around. Main thing to note is the high speed of this unit. 84 for heavy armoured, this is very rare, and at 1350 points, a real bargain. Providing encouragement as well on the battlefield, there's nothing not to like about this unit. They even have full seeker to speed themselves up to catch any units they want. Again at 1350 points, this elite cav force is a mercenary band for hire, with a huge charge bonus being their main strength. At 12 AP, this unit is a great hit and run across the back line, causing huge damage to archers and housing the back lines of the opposition. The Yak melee defense means they can be an easy target, so make sure you don't keep them in the same place, or you might use this unit very quickly. As discussed earlier, Sven Carson has an infantry unit, but he also has a cav force as well at 1350 points. Another good all-rounder with excellent speed and high weapon strength, with better AP than the others at 36. Another great unit to harass the battle line, and that's at 80 models, making it quite formidable. Perfect if you team up with one of the previous units mentioned, as they can cause a high lot of havoc in the back line with the speed and damage. Now onto the R section, starting off with a small band of ogres, led by Erbiab Wotkut, a famous ogre mercenary, and provides similar stat lines to the Arst ogre unit, but they are better in combat but slower with 10 more armour. They do provide the same flanking role, but can easily stay in a fight longer, as they have the ability Blood Greed, adding some leadership up as well, which is very handy for this unit, and it's 1400 points. It's quite a lot of cash disappearing over the horizon if they don't have this boost. The last of the monster units, we have two treemen. Both have identical stats and are formidable on the battlefield. The perfect unit stand in second rank and is charge in to cause more damage if Frank looks like he's going to collapse. Whose stats across the board are magical with 300 AP. They can kill most heroes or lords, or else fails, send them into the thick of the fighting with some support so they do not get overrun. Lastly, we have the cannon. This unit costs 900 points, but there's only one cannon in the unit. It has huge damage and a burnt debuff, dropping leadership by 8 for 10 seconds. A few abilities to talk about. First one is called Born Sniper, which improves the accuracy of the cannon. The second ability is called Pepper Pot, at 200 meters and strong explosive rounds. And lastly, we have Shrapnel Shot, which is a bit more short range, but can go through anything in its path. So be careful of collateral damage, as it's not good for morale, as we are not a Skaven race. Thanks for watching this video about my little trip down memory lane and my fond memories of the Dark Omen game. If you remember the game yourselves, feel free to put a comment down and just tell me about your experiences of this said game. In the meantime, I'll see you in my next video.